But why shoot down the conversation and call it stupid, CJ? Why?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for the question. I like to just start by rebutting every single fallacy that you just uttered. First and foremost, I know the definition of reparations. You then argue that my definition was the product of a contortion, therefore acknowledging the accuracy of my definition, but then somehow blaming it on some historical contortion that's occurred in your head, maybe in your history class, not in mine. Reparation is a payment made to a disadvantaged community or an affected population of people by the government. So what you're saying isn't even a reparation. So
that's not the definition of reparations.
I think you should Google it.
You told me to first Google the definition of reparations. I have done so several times this week just to make sure Google hasn't changed it like they always like to play games. And the definition is reparation is a noun. It says the making of amends for wrong one has done by paying money to or otherwise helping those who have been wronged. It says nothing about the government having to pay any restitution. Synonyms are amends, restitution, redress, compensation, recompense. See, the problem is the idea of reparations has been contorted. People have turned it into this idea that the government has to pay.
What happened at the Japanese internment camps, the victims of that incident, it was paid directly from government. Restitution is more so what you're describing.
So first of all, I asked you what reparations was, and you gave me a false definition of reparations, right? Then you told me it's not restitution. You told me to Google, and Google says that restitution is a synonym for reparation, but you told me it wasn't. So I just want to clarify that you don't know what the definition of reparation is, and you don't know that restitution is a synonym for reparations. So you're not even clear on what reparations is, so you can't even speak on this topic from an educated point of view. That's number one. And number two.
And the thing that I want to see so much within our community is us open our minds and open our hearts and realize that just because we are Black, we do not have to be Democrat. That is my fundamental belief. That is why I do.
And we don't have to be Republican either.
You're right. You're right. That's exactly why. I think the
so let me hop in right here. Let me hop in right here because you preaching to the choir. You preaching as if the Hotep Nation philosophy isn't about independence. You preaching as if we're not authors who teach economic empowerment. You talking to me as if we didn't just sponsor an event in Brooklyn for Black people to build their own business. You talking to somebody who led that while you were probably 10 years old, 12 years old. I was the one going against Black Lives Matter saying, stop blaming the government, stop blaming white people, blame yourself, because we can pull ourselves out of this mess ourselves. You haven't really sat down and listened to Ta-Nehisi Coates or anybody else on this matter. You haven't given your own, you haven't listened to this with your heart. You're listening to this with your trained talking points, but you haven't listened to this with your heart.
No. I'm listening to this with my brain, and here's what my brain tells me.
He didn't add anything to the conversation. All he did was regurgitate talking points. Taxpayers don't want to pay for it. You know how many times my followers have told me that? White people shouldn't be paying for it. It's going to cause a rift in race relations. Slavery happened a long time ago. I mean, I've heard this stuff since I was 12. You know what I mean? I've heard all of these rebuttals since I was 12. So I'm like, all right, can you add something new to the conversation? And the fact that he focused on slavery, I'm like, well, did he listen to the hearing? Because in the hearing, they were talking about like FHA loans and redline, and then he's talking about slavery. I'm like, well, he must not have heard the hearing because the grievance is a lot more current than slavery. So that's a comprehensive set of grievances. What'd you say?
It's a comprehensive set of grievances. And the argument that I was making, and regardless of whether or not you agree with what I contributed to the conversation, it doesn't mean that I did not contribute to the conversation, okay? And that's what I did.
What'd you contribute? What'd you contribute that was new?
I contributed my opinion, which basically means that I did not shoot anything down. Does it matter? Does it matter if it's new?
It doesn't matter to you. It matters to thinking people.
My video was about reparations, contributing to the conversation as to why this is a pointless issue.
Yeah, I just find it real troubling that when Black people on both sides of the aisle, some who say I'm Democrat, who some say don't, get in the court hearings, and then we have a negative reaction instead of sitting back and thinking. When I saw Burgess's clip, I was like, this is dope. What can we do with this, right? So I said, let's run with this. Let's form this, right? Let's sharpen it. So I created the hashtag Dems Must Pay. Like when we're going into election season here and we're going against a media that hates our president, we, the people, have to be strategic. What I know is when people see Trump or they see conservatives or they see Republican, black people go, oh, you're racist, right? That's what they say. So when we bring up the topic of reparations and everybody is a white conservative, everybody that's a white conservative is against reparations, black people, no matter what their intellectual capacity is, are going to say, oh, you're racist because you don't want to see black people get their just due because other people have gotten their just due in this country, right? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help the conservative party not look so damn racist. If you change the narrative and point the gun back at the Democrats, we take away their wild card. We can make that trend. Had CJ got behind it and told the rest of his cohorts to get behind it, that could have trended, right? We could have trended Dems Must Pay. That would have went national. That would have been crazy. We would have took their wild card away. Instead, what everybody wanted to do is no reparations, no reparations. What I know about energy is energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So you cannot destroy the conversation of reparations, but energy can be transferred or redirected. So when you see a topic pop up, you can redirect it any way you want it to go. So why not redirect it in a way that's going to be advantageous for our president? Instead of doing things that are going to cause black people to call you names and make you look like a so-called coon. Don't do that. Be more strategic is what I'm saying, CJ. Be more diplomatic. Be more caring. Think from your heart.
I can appreciate that criticism. And what I would have wished, instead of attacking my passion in a tweet, that you would have DM'd me, and I would have loved to work with you on the Dems Must Pay initiative. I think that is important, that we do have strategy when we talk about these issues, but also that I think that we redirect the conversation in this way. And I agree with your hashtag. It's why I used it. I think if anyone should be paying for the grievances that the black community has had to endure, from redlining to all of these, terrible things like the Clinton crime bill, then it is Democrats. I agree with that. That's why I use the hashtag.
So that's the conversation.
Yeah, let's have that conversation. But
not let's have it. That's the conversation. Yeah, I agree. I got your tweets right here that say the Democrat Party, the whole history. I got them right here. Democrats talk an awful lot about races, but be the party that founded KKK. It's them. So let's make that the conversation as it pertains to racism. As it pertains to reparations. You're a black man. You don't lose nothing from reparations. Why would you be against it?
I think I'm against it as a matter of principle, and I think that is it's just at the end of the day just a part of my ideology. But I think at the end of the day, I come at this from an ideological perspective. I think you come at this from a strategical perspective. And I think that if we can find a way to meld the two, then that's great. I don't think we disagree on this issue. I think you acknowledge that you agree with my position on this issue. I acknowledge that Dems Must Pay is a genius idea to redirect the conversation about the atrocities that Democrats have waged upon the black community.
What you said was very key just now. You said we have to understand how we communicate or reach out to the black community, right?
Definitely.
We have to be strategic in how we reach out to the black community, right?
Definitely.
And that's my beef with your video. What you did set us back. You set us back with that video.
My video was about reparations, contributing to the conversation as to why this is a pointless issue.
And all you got to do is go to that thread and see how black people responded to you. So your outreach to the black community, if it was at 100, is now at like 25. And I know it wasn't at 100 because I know how they feel about you, but you're at 25 now, or 0. They completely have written you off, so they won't even listen to you in the future. So when you say, how do we reach out to the black community? I'm trying to show you how. And you have to do it with compassion. You have to do it with listening. I don't like Ta-Nehisi Coates or whatever his name is, but I listen and I figure out, well, how can I communicate and appease him? How can I appease Mr. Burgess? And how can I appease the white conservative, which I ally with? And I said, you know what? Mr. Burgess is right. Dems must pay. And Ta-Nehisi Coates might not 100% agree with that, but at least his reparations conversation is moving along. At least I didn't say to him, yo, this conversation's done. Completely try and shut it down. So when you say, how do we reach out to the Black community? You're doing it all wrong. And I'm trying to show you how when you're fighting me.
And I appreciate the criticism, and that's definitely something that I think we can all learn from in this, is that we can be more strategic, we can be more we can think more about the way in which we approach these issues.
My thing is this with the whole reparation conversation, because it's so complicated and nearly impossible. I want the conversation to continue. I'm really intrigued by the conversation. I don't like when people shoot down conversations. Nah, that's what America needs. Like when you say heal, this is what America needs. What me and you are doing right now is what America needs. We can't shoot down conversations. You were late today, an hour and 35 minutes. I didn't shoot down the conversation. I said, you know what? I'll rearrange my day and I'll accommodate, because America needs this conversation. And that's what I'm asking of you. When these hot button topics pop up, don't just react to get your clicks. Really sit back and say, how do we add to this conversation to heal America? Not make money, not grow your brand. How do we heal America? And in order to do that, it has to be done from your heart. There's a video of me on YouTube. I was at Times Square. I was at a Trump rally in New York City, one of the most violent cities in America. We were attacked several times, right? At this rally, I had several conversations. One of them was with 2 lesbian POC women, right? At the end of the conversation, they understood why Black people were there supporting Trump. That is impossible, because when they first got there, they had hate in their heart. When you ask me, can we take a person that calls us coon and change their mind? You say you're not going to reach out to them. And I'm telling you, that's actually the easiest mind to reach. The hardest mind to reach is the dude in the middle. The easiest mind to reach is the one that's all the way one way or all the way the other. I mean, but I'm just good at that. I'm just good at talking to people. But really what it is first is listening. It's listening. When the white conservatives were getting banned, when white nationalists were getting banned, Hotep Jesus stood up knowing I was going to get backlash from the Black community. I said, no. If they want to wear their Nazi signs or they want to say this or they say that, let them. I want to hear their conversation. I want to hear their grievances with America. Why are they so upset? Why are they gathering in Charlottesville? I think it's stupid they walking around with tiki torches. I'm not intimidated by it at all, but I want to hear what they got to say. Then you know what happened? Oh, one of our blogs, blew up because it said Hotep's made amends with white nationalists. How the hell do you take what some people might call an extreme pro-Black group and find amends with an extreme pro-white group? It's because I sat down and I just listened to your grievances, and we can just come together at the table and we could talk it out. When I post my picture with my MAGA hat on, I know when I'm gonna get called when I post it, right? Now, showing solidarity with the MAGA movement is quite different than voicing a negative opinion on something that means something near and dear to the hearts of Black people, right? My mother is a Black liberal. I love her to death. She grew up in all of this in the civil rights movement. I love her to death. She says, 90% of the things she says, I don't agree with. But I also understand how she feels. Yeah. And a lot of people like to remove emotions from this thing, but you can't. You can remove emotions for yourself, but you can't remove them for other people. And the truth of the matter is, if you recognize other people's emotions, you can use it against them. The media does it, advertising does it, marketing does it, you name it. You can use people's emotions against them by reserving your emotions. When you get on camera and you turn into Macho Man Randy Savage and you go against what you know the majority of Black people want to talk about, you know what the backlash is. So at that point in time, you got to sit back and say, well, how do I approach this topic diplomatically? So I don't upset my conservative following, and I do pull some Black people over to my side And then also we're educating people about the history of the evil of the Democratic Party, which is our main goal. So when you say reparations is taking away from what we should be talking about, I'm like, no, it's adding to it because the Democrats are responsible. And if I did a search right now and I counted how many times you referenced the Democrats on your Twitter, I'm sure it'd be over 1,000. So you can't say the topic of reparations is irrelevant or taking away when the Democrats are responsible for it and the Democrats are your target. All I've done was gave you more ammunition with the topic of reparations. You didn't have to shut it down. You put it in your magazine and you fired a clip off at the enemy. Let's start here. Are reparations feasible? No, probably not. Are we going to get reparations in my lifetime? Probably not. Not from this government, not from the DNC, and I don't think white taxpayers should pay for it. And it's kind of funny because when you think about reparations and you say the government has to pay for it, technically, me as a taxpayer, I'm paying myself, and that's really whack, right? So I think the conversation needs to move from that. What I would like to see if somebody wants to inject something into this reparations conversation is, tax exempt status. That would be really awesome, right? Having tax exempt status, I would really love. But again, it comes back to the issue: does that make Shaun King eligible? Because if Shaun King's eligible, we got to go back to the table. What do we do with the mulatto people? It's a lot of things in this conversation that make it very complicated. But as CJ said, and as Anomaly said, I have an ideology, but I use my ideology strategically. As much as we are online and I see all the influences on the right wing, we go down the line and list how many times have they used the word Democrat. Some of them can't make a point without it being in juxtaposition to the Democrats. I'm like, y'all talk about Democrats a whole lot. Let's weigh in on them. Let's shoot more clips at them. Now the Democrats come to the table with reparations. And I said, yo, before you jump to the conclusion and shoot down the conversation of reparations, leave the conversation open. Let's tell the truth about the history of America and the deeds done by the DNC. Is it realistic that the DNC will pay? No, we know that. Duh, dummy. We all know that. Duh. I hate when people make duh points. Don't make duh points. Bring something new to the conversation. Don't give me duh points. We know they're not going to pay. Duh. My point is, take their wild card away as a strategic maneuver for the next election. Dems must pay. Will they pay? No. But we can use it to expose their evil. That's all I got to say about that. CJ, I would like you to be more compassionate when it comes to topics that involve Black people, because you are a Black man, and you yourself in this conversation said we have to be careful, or you say that we have to figure out how we're going to reach out to the Black community. And you're right. That's a voting bloc that is completely left, and I'm disgusted by them being completely left. But what we can't do is, as the only two, I'm using hyperbole here, but as the only two Black people on this side of the aisle, we can't set ourselves back by agitating the Blacks and giving them more reason to hit that Biden button or to hit that Sanders button, right? Because all these conversations are going to come up, and in the head, when they're in that booth, we don't want them pressing that button, right? So I want you to be more tactful when it comes to conversations that deal with Black people. Be more compassionate, be more open-minded, listen, then be strategic and figure out how you can find a middle ground and be diplomatic.
Hotep, the advice that you gave, the guidance that you present, and the role that you play in this movement is important. I think strategy is important in the way that we present our ideals and the way we message our principles and our beliefs. I think that is incredibly important. And I think it is important for me, as I grow older and as I, continue to work within this realm, that I do, take time to, sit back and say, how can I best present this and best argue my point of view in a way that's going to make this the most attractive to the people that I'm looking to reach?